Warning! Kinda Murdery contains adult themes, explicit language, and descriptions of violence. It is not suitable for anyone, and we recommend you stop listening now.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Kinda Murdery, a true crime podcast that's mostly about murder, and always about the strange and compelling stories that arise when the path less traveled twists to darkness, and those who walk its shadows surrender to violence and corruption. I'm your host, Zevon Odelberg, and we have a perilous journey ahead, so thank you for lending me your courage and good company. The first foot showed up on Jebediah Island, a gruesome discovery made by a tourist from Washington. The woman picked up a shoe on the beach and saw a sock inside of it. She opened the sock expecting to find a crab or a lump of sand, and instead found a man's foot. The foot was in a shoe that was distributed largely in India in 2003. At the time, not much was made of it, except for the local press. Human remains often wash up on seashores, after all. But of course, I don't think that severed foot on the beach should be so easily dismissed, which is why today I'm presenting to you part 1 of The Case of the Severed Feet. Of particular value in crafting today's episode was the excellent March 2021 National Geographic article written by Engelhaupt. The source is in the show notes if you'd like to read it, and in fact, the article is an excerpt from Erika's excellent book, which covers this case, entitled Gory Details, Adventures from the Dark Side of Science, which is, of course, right up Kinda Murdery's alley, and I think it'll be right up yours, too. So if you want to check out Erika's book, there's a link for that in the show notes as well. And as fantastic as she is, it's not Erika, but another writer named Esther Engelhaupt who delivers my favorite introduction to today's story in her article published by Gizmodo in 2011. And that introduction goes like this. There are some things you never want to mention when you're trying to sell a beach house. Tsunamis, constant damage from the salt wind, the possibility, however remote, that sharks may develop legs, and of course, that the beach where your house sits is famous for the disembodied feet that keep walking ashore, nearly all of them still in shoes. Now, if you're ready to find out just what the heck is going on, then I suggest that you put your personal items underneath the seat in front of you. Stow your carry-on in the overhead compartment. Let go of the cares of the day, but be sure your seatbelt is fastened. There's turbulence expected ahead. Kinda Murdery, The Case of the Severed Feet, starts now. Today, I bring you the case of the severed feet, a mystery so baffling that it remained unsolved and captivated both Canada and the world for almost 15 years. Now, here in 2022, the case of the severed feet has purportedly been solved. So, while all my sources are in the show notes, I suggest that you not read them until after you've listened to the case of the severed feet part 2, which I'll be releasing this Sunday, November 20th. Of course, if you're someone who enjoys spoilers, go ahead and read away. I want you to be happy. I want you to do you. I like you just the way you are. So what exactly is the case of the severed feet? Well, I'm so glad you asked. Over the approximately decade and a half between the years of 2007 and 2019, 21 severed feet washed up on the shores of the Salish Sea. The Salish Sea is a fairly new name for the 3 inland marine waterways straddling the U.S. Canada border: the Georgia Strait, the Strait of Juan de Fuca, and Puget Sound. But back to the matter at hand. 21 severed feet. That's just 1 foot short of an entire soccer team. Was this the work of a sloppy serial killer with a foot fetish? Was it a truly headline-grabbing mass murder mystery that went viral, puzzling people around the world and inspiring crime writers as far afield as Norway? That's the question we're going to begin to answer today. Let's get to the facts. In 2007, a girl was roaming a beach in British Columbia when she found a sneaker. To her horror, as she opened up the sock, she found that a human foot was inside. Since then, a number of severed feet have washed ashore, The feet have been connected to 5 men, 1 woman, and 3 of unknown sex. For many years, with a hoax foot thrown in here or there, the case was never completely closed, with many theories floating around as to who the feet belonged to. The Vancouver police managed to identify 1 foot in 2008, matching its DNA to a man who was described as suicidal. They later were able to match 2 other feet to a woman who was also believed to have committed suicide. Because of these findings, many speculated that the feet belonged to those who jumped off a bridge to their deaths. However, because of the rarity of only feet and no other body parts showing up, others believed that the feet were connected to a plane crash by a nearby island, and some suggested that they were those who were victims of the Asian tsunami in 2004, since the make of the shoes were all manufactured before 2004. Whatever sources these feet were coming from, they left the world flummoxed for years. As I stated previously, it all started in the summer of 2007. On August 20th, a girl spotted a blue and white Adidas sneaker on the shores of Jebediah Island between the mainland of British Columbia and Vancouver Island. Peeping inside the shoe, she was shocked to find it contained a decayed male right foot. When another foot, also belonging to a man but clearly a different man, was found 6 days later on another nearby island, the wider press started taking note. After that, the discoveries happened regularly. They clustered around the summer months. The most common months to find feet was August, though there had been discoveries in November, December, and February. Although this could be because of tidal patterns, it's also probably the fact that people tend to be on the beach the most in summer, and so they're there to discover the severed feet. Most of the feet are single, but 4 or 5 of the feet have been shown to belong to 2 people, bringing the total to 9 people's remains discovered. 3 of those people have been identified, and their deaths attributed to natural causes. Some of the known victims were local, and thought to be suicidal during their lives. While this explains a few of the victims, the rest have frustrated local authorities. When the second foot was discovered just 6 days after the first appeared, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police were baffled. Finding 1 foot is like 1,000,000 to 1 odds, but finding 2 is crazy, said Royal Canadian Mounted Police spokesman Gary Cox. I've heard of dancers with 2 left feet, but come on. I'm not sure if making corny jokes about the severed appendages of dead people is totally Canadian or pretty surprising for a Canadian. If you're listening in Canada, please reach out to me, kindamurdery@gmail.com, and let me know if Canadians have morbid senses of humor. The case refused to go cold. Over the course of the next year, 5 more severed feet turned up. When 1 foot washes up on a local beach, it's a short item in the local news. When another foot washes up, not matching the left foot, but another right foot, and then 5 more feet wash up, well, suddenly, you have the makings of a headline-grabbing, multiple murder story. DNA analysis allowed the Royal Canadian Mounted Police to link most of the feet to persons that had been reported missing and were presumed dead due to accident or suicide. The New Balance speakers belonged to a woman who had jumped off a bridge. The first foot from Jebediah Island was linked to a man known to be suffering from depression, who had been missing since 2004. The foot found in November 2011 was matched to a local fisherman who had gone missing in 1987. In all, 3 pairs of feet were matched to each other. And, as I alluded to, following the first feet to appear on the beach in 2007, they just kept coming. On February 8, 2008, another male right foot washed up on Valdez Island, this time a size 11. On May 22nd, a female right foot was found on Kirkland Island. On June 16th, 2 hikers on Westham Island found the first left foot. It matched the right foot found earlier on Valdez Island. On August 1st, a camper discovered a male right foot inside a black size 11 shoe in Pisht, Washington, the first find on the U.S. side of the border. Severed feet seemed to be a Canadian thing. Police suspected the currents may have carried the specimen across the international maritime border just 10 miles to the north. On November 11th, a woman's left foot was found in the Fraser River in Richmond. The shoe brand was New Balance, and DNA testing matched it to the foot found on Kirkland Island that belonged to the woman that authorities determined had tragically committed suicide. The feet just kept coming. Always feet. Well, why always feet? And why were they washing up on this particular coastline? Media speculation and public anxiety reached a fever pitch. Popular theories involved the aforementioned serial killer, Mafia hits, alien abductions, and obductions, meaning autopsies. Some thought that they were illegal immigrants who had met their horrific deaths in containers dumped at the bottom of the ocean. The phenomenon even attracted hoaxers, strewing shoes filled with non-human bones along the Pacific shores of Western Canada. Between August 2007 and November 2011, 9 feet belonging to 7 people were discovered in British Columbia, 8 along the coast and 1 in Sasamat Lake. In 2011, a foot found in a lake in Port Moody, northeast of Vancouver, that's Sasamat Lake that I just mentioned, was linked to a man whose boat had overturned while he was fishing in the area 24 years earlier. A Rottweiler discovered a lower left leg and foot with a white ankle sock and black running shoes on Vancouver's coast. A few months later, using DNA technology, investigators matched the remains to a 79-year-old Washington State man. Still, even then, questions remained. The man's family told the police he had vanished months before after leaving home without his medication. The coroner's office was able to match the DNA of the foot found in Sasamat Lake to Stephen Zaharujko, 65, whose overturned boat, fishing gear, and personal effects were discovered floating in the lake after he went missing on January 5, 1987. His vehicle and boat trailers were left parked on Bedwell Bay Road, next to the lake. It was presumed that he'd fallen from the boat and drowned, but multiple searches failed to find his body. The coroner's office, upon making the DNA match, notified Mr. Zaharujko's next of kin. By the end of 2011, the coroner's office had identified 7 of the 9 feet as belonging to 5 different people. The major stumbling block to identification is the effect of the environment on body tissue. Many people think of bodies as rotting. What happens in the ocean, particularly in oxygen-starved environments, is the buildup of adipocere. Adipocere is a waxy substance often found in soap. It builds up in bodies that are exposed to bacteria, but not to air. The anaerobic bacteria process the fat tissue and create adipocere. This distorts the features of the foot. Authorities were able to identify the 3 known victims due to DNA, but for the rest, they could only guess at the gender and age by looking at the size of the foot and the type of the shoe. Since both women and younger men tend to wear men's running shoes, most feet, unless they have toenail polish on them, are classified as either juvenile or female. It's also hard to be sure where and when the feet come from. Many different currents end up along the Washington and British Columbia coastlines. Because of the cold ocean and the fact that the feet would have built up different amounts of adipocere, the foot could have come from a body nearly anywhere or at any depth in the Pacific, and it could have been in the water for years or even decades before it turned up on the beach. During the 11 years between 2007 and 2018, a total of 15 feet washed ashore on the beaches of the Salish Sea. By 2019, 6 more had turned up in Puget Sound, which lies across the U.S. border at the southern end of the sea, bringing the total number of severed feet to 21. With the exception of 1 foot wearing an old hiking boot, all of them were encased in sneakers. The sneaker-clad feet became famous, even garnering their own Wikipedia page. And, as I mentioned previously, they came with morbid hoaxes. Pranksters stuffing shoes with chicken bones or skeletonized dog paws and scattering them along the Canadian shorelines. Tipsters called police with all manners of theories as to the origins of the feet. I've mentioned some of those already. Serial killers, containers full of migrants, aliens. Laura Yazajan, a forensic anthropologist who works as a human identification specialist for the British Columbia Coroner's Service, also pointed out that pretty much every single time a psychic would call and offer to help. I've mentioned more than once now that a total of 21 feet washed ashore the Salish Sea between 2007 and 2019. But the experts didn't need the 3 years between 2016 and 2019, nor did they need the final 9 human feet. That's right, the last 4.5 people worth of severed feet were apparently extraneous. This was an impressive feat of detection. By the time foot number 12 had arrived in February 2016, experts were relatively certain they had solved the case of the severed feet. But If the case was solved in 2016, why did 9 more feet wash ashore, 6 of those on the American side of the maritime border in the 3 years between when the case was solved and when the most recent foot washed ashore, which was in January of 2019? The 9 feet that arrived after the solving of the case increased the total number of Salish Sea severed feet by 75% to that grand total so many times mentioned now of 21 severed feet, one shy of a soccer team. If the case was solved, why did the feet keep coming? Well, to find out the answer to that, you'll have to tune in this Sunday, November 20th, for the case of the severed feet, part 2. Now wait a second, don't turn off the show, it's not over. Stay with me for just a moment. I have a little sharing to do. I'd like to remind you, as I always do, of the free 3-digit lifeline number 988 that you can call to receive immediate counseling for substance use, mental health issues, or suicidal thoughts. So if you're in acute crisis, please do call 988. Program it into your phone. If you're not in acute crisis and you'd just like to make a connection with someone, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, kindamurdery@gmail.com. I'm here, I care, and I'd love to connect with you. And please, always do remember that the world is a better place with you in it. As you already know if you're a regular listener, and as you'll find out now if you're a first-timer, welcome by the way, I have cerebral palsy, which is a neuromuscular disorder which causes difficulties such as delayed development, muscular weakness, partial paralysis, in my case in my left foot only, poor balance. It's a laundry list really, and I don't need to hit all of it. But one of the side effects is that my body being so out of whack makes me more vulnerable to injury. And on that note, I know I've been pretty silent on social media lately, and I wanted to let you know why. I got whiplash from a roller coaster, if you can believe it, taking the kids to SeaWorld for Halloween a few weeks ago. So I've got an inflamed nerve that feels like a bad toothache shooting through my neck, shoulder, and arm whenever I try to lay down, which means I haven't been sleeping much, and putting out the pod's about all I can manage. And as I've said before, I mention my disability because I want Kinda Murdery to be a community where disabled people, physical or otherwise, and frankly not just disabled people, but anyone who is struggling, can feel comfortable sharing their unique life experiences and stories. These will be experiences and stories that most of us have never even considered, but once exposed to those stories, the people who are living them will become real people to us, and it's my hope that we can all build empathy for each other that way. And to that end, I received an email this week from listener Terry Brooke Wolin that really moved me. And before I share it with you, I want to assure anyone who might reach out to share something personal that whatever you share won't end up on the show unless you give me your permission to share it. Terry said it was okay to tell her story, so I'm going to do that now. The subject of the email is multiple sclerosis, cerebral palsy, and a stroke. Listener Terry Brooke Wolin writes, "These 3 things do not all affect my body. Actually, it's just the multiple sclerosis. But it's a silly incident from 25 years ago that takes me to a happy time and reminds me not to take things too seriously. My older brother, now 64, was born with CP, cerebral palsy. It affects his entire right side. I would love to say he was treated no differently than the other 4 kids in the family, but that's not entirely true. My mother had a severe stroke in October 1996, which affected her entire right side. I was diagnosed with MS in January 1997, and it initially affected my entire right side, but has since decided to encompass everything. I'm writing to you after a very bad night and not a great morning thus far. My happy time occurred in February of 1997. I flew out to see my mother for the first time since my diagnosis, as I was told she was upset about it, but her lack of speech since the stroke made it difficult to discuss things over the phone. To the point, the 3 of us were playing cards one night during the visit. At the start, either my sister or other brother were playing, but left for whatever reason. At least temporarily, it was my turn to shuffle and deal, assuring my mom it wasn't a problem and my right hand wasn't that bad. I was wrong. The cards went flying all over the kitchen. I said something profound like, 3 people and not a left hand amongst us. This ended with hysterical, cathartic laughter that we just couldn't stop. My younger sister came marching in, wanting to know what was so funny. I told her. She marched back out, sighing and exclaiming that the 3 of us were crazy. I go back there in my mind when I've had a night or a day such as the one I'm having now. Thank you for this space to allow me to wallow, to remember, or vent. Thank you, Zev. No, Terry, really, thank you. Emails like yours mean the world to me. I pour my heart and soul into this show, and when someone like you reaches out, when any of you reach out to let me know that Kinda Murdery has made a positive impact on your journey, that it makes your challenges just a little bit easier, that connection makes every ounce of effort that I put in worth it. So thank you, Terry, for sharing. And everyone else, I hope Terry has helped you to feel comfortable sharing, and that you will, because we're all helping each other here. Now don't forget, there's still a mystery afoot. And the mystery afoot is all about feet. Sorry, I couldn't resist. The severed human feet, 21 of them in fact, why only feet, what the heck, right? That have been washing up all over the shared U.S. Canadian beaches of the Salish Sea over the past 15 years or so. So please, come back this Sunday, November 20th, for the final chapter. I'm not going to drag my feet on this one, it's just a two-parter. The Case of the Severed Feet. I look forward to seeing you on Sunday. I'm Zevon Odelberg, and this has been Kinda Murdery.